My name is David Hoyer. I'm the Integration Program Manager at Mind Foundation, and I have the pleasure to introduce Johan Planefeldt tonight. Tonight, I can say tonight, yeah. He's a somatic educator and filmmaker, and he's going to present on somatics and psychedelics, how to use body awareness to heal trauma and integrate and unfold intense experiences. His interest in the body-mind complex began in the 90s as he discovered the ability to enter into deep states of trance. Since then, he has studied and practiced trance work from different cultures and traditions. In 2011, he discovered his love for contact improvisation, which led him on a deep embodiment research where he studied practices like authentic movement, body-mind centering, Bhutto, holotropic breathwork, and Vipassana meditation. The last years of studies have been dedicated to trauma-informed somatic therapy like somatic experiencing. He is regularly facilitating trance dance and authentic movement workshops alongside directing films on the topics of somatics and trance. Very much looking forward to your talk.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, people, we're going to talk about embodiment. I guess nobody missed this very popular thing because I think internet's been full of embodiment talks since the last couple of years. But still, I felt the urge to introduce it to the psychedelic conference because, in my opinion, there's not enough thoughts and talk about embodiment in the psychedelic field. And often psychedelics means dissociating from the body and leaving the body. And I don't think that's a good idea. And I will tell you why. But we can let me start with a little introduction. So if you want, I would invite you to close your eyes and feel how you're kind of landing on your seat. Get yourself comfortable. You might feel how the seat is pushing up towards your butt. Your body might want to do some stretches and reaching out. Maybe there is deeper breath coming, or kind of a displacement of the body, shifting, like you feel your feet. And let's now take a few deep breaths together as you breathe in and out. And another one. In and out. Really let go. And we do it one more time. And if there's any sounds coming, just let them be and come out. So in and out. All right. I invite you back in the room. Doesn't that feel different? Like I'm in a different place right now. And this was an example of kind of co-regulation. We all collectively synchronized our nervous systems into a little bit more safety than before. And this will show to be a very important tool in psychedelic therapy and any kind of therapy. So let's see what we have here. So somatics comes from the word soma, which means the body as perceived from within. This is based on interoception. One of the most famous trauma therapists, Bessel van der Kolk, is describing it, interoception as it is awareness of subtle sensory body-based feelings. The greater the awareness, the greater the potential to control our lives. And through the last century, there's been a lot of beautiful somatic practices approaching, like Feldenkrais, body-mind centering, authentic movement, yoga, for example, that's even older, Alexander technique. And all these techniques, they teach us a lot about our consciousness, our feelings, what's in our past, and what's in the present. So as you go deeper, you start to notice that Basically, the whole body is a complete mirror of your consciousness and your mind. Here on the picture is a study from Finland, 2014, where they had over 700 people mapping out exactly where in the body specific feelings are felt. One of the pioneers of somatic therapy, Wilhelm Reich, defined already in the 30s what happens in the body when a lot of stressed and unexpressed emotions build up and creates kind of an armor in your body. Here's a quote from him. The armor is the total of the typical character attitudes and holding patterns which an individual develops as a block against the breakthrough of emotions and organ sensations, resulting in rigidity of the body, lack of emotional contact, kind of deadness. Functionally, it's identical to muscular armor, like chronic muscular spasms. Later research has also shown that not only the muscles get contracted, but also the fascia, which is this fine net, the connective tissue that sits around all the organs and muscles in the body. And the stale fascia would also stagnate the blood flow that goes through it, the lymphatic system, the nervous system, so that over a prolonged time it would lead to actual complications and disease in the body. The good news, everybody, is that it's relatively easy to release these tensions, with many of the somatic practices being offered. The bad news is that the armor pretty soon comes back again as soon as you get triggered out in real life. So that leaves a good market for different workshops, I guess, but it's not going to help you in the long run to really resolve these issues. In the 70s, many alternative psychology practices became popular, like primal therapy and breathwork, which was pretty much based on the cathartic model, where people would go deep into their wounding and scream and purge it all out. But this didn't prove to be too effective, because most of what it did was to strengthen the brain pathways and the need for having a powerful purge. So you actually didn't learn how to deal with this in real life. On a good day, you got your body armor released and you came out open, energized, only to start up tensing again by the next trigger. On a bad day, you would dive straight into the core wounding and get stuck in an overwhelm, and thereby re-traumatizing yourself, filling up the wound with even more energy that would tax your nervous system and even like make PTSD stronger. Modern somatic therapy, like Somatic Experiencing, Hakumi, and NARM, they're all very aware of these risks and have completely changed their way of working with the body in relationship to trauma. Instead, they prefer to work really slowly and carefully, not to overwhelm the nervous system, and instead is teaching how to self-regulate back to safety without having to dive deep into the wound and have the purge and all of that. We're going to jump straight to how Somatic Experiencing, one of the major somatic therapies, how they are describing what a trauma is and why most animals don't get traumatized. I don't know how many of you have seen this video of the impala getting hunted down by a leopard. There are a few people who've seen it. So Somatic Experiencing, which was created by Dr. Peter Levine in the late 70s, often uses this video to show how animals naturally deal with life threats and how they successfully come out of a life-threatening situation without being traumatized. Levine calls this the functional trauma response. So in the video, we see the impala peacefully grazing, but then suddenly gets alarmed. There might be a threat lurking somewhere nearby. So this is the startle response. The second response is the orientation. The neck extends for optimum hearing and seeing, and the impala starts to look around for any possible threat. Suddenly the leopard comes charging for the impala, which starts to run as fast as it can. This is the defensive response, the fight-flight, and it goes into the limbs in order to support running away or fighting back. The leopard attacks it, starts biting it, and pretty soon this leopard is completely overwhelmed by all this energy that wanted him to run away, and it switches into an older part of our nervous system, which is the freeze state, the dorsal vagal part of the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is when the fight or flight is not successful, then we go into freeze. So the impala is like a sack of potatoes. The leopard is biting it doesn't do anything, it drops the head, heads fall down like nothing is alive. Luckily, there is a hyena lurking in the bushes, and the leopard starts to get a bit suspicious and thinking, maybe I should go for a stroll. It does so. The impala is feeling safe, starts to take a few breaths, and starting the discharge process here, step number 5, it starts shaking, trembling, and releasing all this energy that was locked up in the fight and flight. After this, it's doing pretty good. It can go on eating, grazing, pronking around, and being a happy impala. So mission completed. And also for humans, this is the ideal response to a traumatic incident. But humans have the tendency to get stuck in all these first 5 different stages. We can get stuck, and that's when we go to therapy and trying to complete the cycle, the functional trauma response cycle. Let's check out a little bit what's going on in the nervous system here. So we have here the polyvagal theory. It's a quite scientifically criticized theory. Still, it does a really good job showing what's going on in our nervous system and how to work with this therapeutically. So down we have the social engagement system. This is the ventral vagal activation, our eating and socializing zone. We feel joy, we feel connectedness to people, groundedness, compassion, and we are safe. Then there is like slight danger coming, and this is when we're shifting into the fight and flight. In most cases, we are able to downregulate us when there is no danger. We go back into social engagement and safety. But we carry also traumas, which has disabled our self-regulatory capacity. So that's why frustration can grow to irritation, growing to anger, and then in rage, or on the fear spectrum, from worry to anxiety to fear to full-blown panic. And our system is not really made for being stuck in a panic or rage state for very long. So we reach a feeling of overwhelm. It's also very taxing for our system. There's a lot of cortisol in our blood and adrenaline, and it will make us sick eventually. So our system switches over into freeze. Everything is just frozen in the body. We kind of get numb, feeling helpless, depressed, dissociated from our body, feeling shame, completely shut down. And many people live their lives in the freeze state, more or less. And now and then it starts to open up because we want to heal, we want to release and come back to social contact. But as soon as they go back into fight-flight, they're met with the same panic and rage that was locked into their system. And they go back into freeze, because that's what they got used to doing. And it doesn't have to be the case. You can get out of the freeze state not through meditation and relaxing. That's not possible. You have to deal with all this activation that is locked in your system. But sports, yoga, dancing, singing, shouting, these are great alternatives. Instead of going into the more fear-based section, you can self-regulate by actually using up this energy and release it and go back into social connection. So basically, Peter Levine defines trauma as an unresolved autonomic nervous system response to life threats. And he goes on saying that to avoid being traumatized, a person must discharge all the energy which the body-mind has made available to deal with the threat. If this doesn't happen, the nervous system experiences the danger as an ongoing event and continues to activate defensive energy, which must be handled in some way to prevent overloading the body-mind. While many different traumatic symptoms may develop as a result, all of them has freezing, or even if it's only partially freezing at its core. So Peter Levine in Somatic Experiencing using 3 primary ways to work with this. First one is titration, which means or titration, Less is more. Slower is better in trauma work. So don't bite into the big apple and jump straight into the trauma vortex and get carried away and overwhelmed and ending up in a free state again. But take small parts at a time and then go back to safety again. And for this is using resourcing. And this is the process of finding a space of okayness in your body. And the therapeutic sessions always start with grounding yourself, feeling safe, connected, co-regulating with a therapist, finding a part of your body which feels safe, maybe doing self-hugging, which is very, I will show you. This is a way of like self-regulating. You can also do the butterfly clapping or stimulating the outer sides of the limbs. This is also stimulating the ventral vagal nerve, calming you down. Can also be a memory of a family member or someone that you really feel safe with. And all these resources will be used during the therapy. And Somatic Experiencing works with pendulation. This means that you go into the trauma vortex and then you go out into resources, back into the trauma vortex and resources. And this way, like you see like the 8 symbol here in the spirals down there in the picture, this is a way of unwind the trauma without overwhelming the system, and at the same time teaching your nervous system how to downregulate by itself. The cathartic model, you just had your catharsis, you purged it out and you were home, but you didn't teach the body how to downregulate before you had to go into full-blown panic. So this is like the essence of modern somatic trauma therapy. Okay, so let's talk a bit about psychedelics. Here are a few points I noted down, mostly from my own observations and what other people are saying about it. What happens with your somatic, your embodiment feeling while you're on psychedelics. So there is a heightened body awareness. You almost get like a microscope for your interoception. There is an increased sense of energy in your system. An increased ability to access stuck energy or frozen areas of the body. Sometimes I can feel parts that were completely numbed out. There's an increased ability to relax or unfold certain holding patterns and tensions. Like at some point, I would see a social anxiety coming into my body, and in the same second, I can just let go, as if it was a muscle or I dropped the thing. The same pattern just let go, and I was back into feeling of safety again. Stanislav Grof is talking about the non-ordinary states of consciousness, giving you access to past memories and traumas as if it happened yesterday. So this would give a very good ability to work on old things. And they would be very accessible for you. And the last thing here, ability to visit and reevaluate past traumas with an increased access to resources. And this is what we see in MDMA therapy right now. Where people, traumatized people, are able to revisit really painful memories without getting pulled into the emotions, and to watch them from a feeling of compassion and understanding rather than getting triggered emotionally from the memories. So what do we have from the somatic trauma therapy that we can integrate into the psychedelic therapeutic work? And also in any kind of use of psychedelics? And I would say that the main thing, being aware of the level of nervous system activation and knowing how to navigate away from overwhelm using resources during the session. And a really good learning here is that the stronger the positive resources are, the more the person will be able to process negative sensations during the session. That means that if I'm feeling vital and empowered, I have much more ability to avoid overwhelm and actually go into painful memories and get something out of it instead of getting stuck in a freeze response. Whereas if I'm coming to the session feeling very anxious, locked up, and not in my body, my system is already basically holding so much energy and is so overwhelmed that taking psychedelics in that state, I would say, is really risky and can lead to re-traumatization. Supporting the wait, what do we have here? Yeah, supporting the completion of the functional trauma response, like this 5-step model on how the animal comes back to safety after getting attacked. Being aware of that model and knowing kind of where you are if something comes up also gives you information where to go. And also as a sitter or a therapist, how can you stimulate this person in their journey to come out of the trauma response cycle? And that was also the case moving from freeze into mobilization. Like moving, shaking, this is all super important when dealing with the freeze state and to getting out of it. Also very important for therapists during psychedelic-assisted therapy, I'm not including plant medicine into this is something completely different, is to look for signs for freeze in the body, in the person, and knowing how to get the person out of the freeze state, to don't let them being lost in space and time, disconnected from the body for too long. And this would be a way of avoiding the re-traumatization. And one of the most beautiful tools for this is the co-regulation, like when we were breathing together, having physical contact, coming down together in safety. But let's look a little bit deeper into this dissociation. How do you see if someone is dissociated? What you can do is that you can see if they have a lower body temperature or heart rate, if they seem very disoriented, contactlessness, loss of language and eye contact, you don't have any kind of social capabilities anymore. If the person feels a numbness to the body, there is emotionlessness, immobility, or a complete collapse. This is when you can bring possible support, which is trying to get the person into the present moment. And that could be like having them open the eyes, talking to them softly. If you have negotiated before about physical touch, so that's consensual, you can engage in like holding the person, holding the hands, keeping the person warm, have eye contact with them, or grounding touch to the feet and the hands. And this will support them to wake up from the state. And don't be alarmed if they start shaking or seeming to run away or get very hyperactive or aggressive. That's just good, and support that process. All right, so we don't have too much time left. But some final notes here, like how do you train your somatic ability and therefore also your ability to deal with intense processes during the psychedelic experience? One of my favorites is the body scan meditation. I've been training Goenka Vipassana, which is like you scan the whole body with your body awareness. And this is incredible how much more insight you get into your body. It's like as clear as you see this picture in front of you, the same kind of resolution you can have on your body down to an organ level. You can feel everything that's going on physically in your body. And it's pure science fiction. So I really advise people to try it out. And that also increases the awareness, the body awareness. And then my second favorite practice is authentic movement. There you learn how to follow impulse and listen for impulse. Like, what does the body actually want to do right now? And you allow that to unfold, either through the breathing, through the voice, screaming, crying, laughing, sounding, singing, or the body movements. And this is also an essential tool during the psychedelic experience to unfold feelings and getting out of the freeze state. There's also TRE, trauma release exercise, which is basically learning how to shake like the animals to get out of the freeze response. So, on a final note here, yes, some ideas about where there could be more research done on the implementation of somatic practices. For the preparation, body scan meditation, embodied dancing, yoga, sports, like down-regulate your system, release all the armor from your system, learn body awareness, get embodied, feel your body. During the experiencing, practicing authentic movement, see what's unfolding through your body during the experience. And very important here for integration, authentic movement is the most beautiful way. If you have things stuck in your system after a psychedelic experience, do authentic movement and these things will come up and unfold and get balanced into your system, and you would feel like a new person afterwards. If you have too severe traumas while doing this, somatic experiencing does the trick with a therapist. NARM, more focus on developmental trauma. And I guess that's my time for today. So thank you very much for listening, and stay embodied, okay?
Yes, thank you very much. I think we have time for one question. Yeah, don't worry. Wait a second.
Okay, so you talked about how to get someone. Okay, sorry. All right. You talked about how to get someone out of a dissociative state by holding them, applying touch, and so on. But if they are in a freeze state and apply, like according to polyvagal theory, they have to get through activation, right? So how would you do that with someone in a psychedelic experience?
A very good question. I would leave that to therapists, of course. I'm not a authorized therapist yet. But I would, with the basic of this knowledge, there is already like implementation of Hakumi in psychedelic therapy, which I find brilliant, where they also work with touch. And it can also be like offering resistance if they need to push or something like this. It's of course a very fine balance to not push things on top of the person. Like you need to really read the body and see how does the body want to express, what kind of reaction might want to come out, and try to support that and not force them into something that might be completely inconvenient for where they are in the journey. Yeah, that's as much as I can answer that question.
Okay, thanks for your presentation. It was really interesting. And I'm just wondering, you're talking about the shaking as a way of releasing trauma. And often in psychedelic therapy, you see quite a lot of shaking. Is it always a release of trauma, or could it also be just like something that you have to at some point engage with or help the person to relax out of again? Or
this question I cannot give you a straight answer for. If it's like a medical symptom, if like they get like what is called serotonin poisoning, or if freezing, I don't know. There is probably a lot of medical situations where the shakiness is maybe not too healthy and it's a sign for help. But in most cases, I would say it's positive. But I'm not a clinician and I'm not a therapist. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your talk. I think it's highly relevant to think about the body when we look at psychedelics and how we engage with them. So thank you very much.